Good morning and welcome to day 9 of the Do You Rules live stream with a mission towards getting in 1,000 hours of self improvement this year. Got my water, got my chapstick, and I'm going to take a very brief moment to settle in, make sure things are copacetic, ensure my thoughts are aligned, and prepare myself to be successful to drive the conversation. So, my mood for today, I think it's important to talk about our moods as often as possible. I've learned over my journey to certainly take nothing for granted. I've learned to never presume anything, as a lot of the literature will point you towards the self evolution and growth towards wherever you think you want to go in your life is to consider this. Consider what I'm about to say. Oh, I could feel the energy rising in my body, man. Let's do a time check. We're going to do some things today. What time is it?
It's 4:17 a.m.
4:17 a.m. I didn't say do that. She talks back. It's crazy, right? You ever thought in your lifetime, if you're 44, going to be 44 like me, that you'd have a device that would talk back to you that wasn't in the movies? Crazy how the world evolves. Yes, day 9, blessings, Red Rose. She's here. I apologize. I shouldn't presume. We have a Do-You ruler, Red Rose, joining us. Day 9 self improvement. And so, what I was getting into is my mood today. And I'm in one of those really hard moods of when I'm in this mode, I get very literal. I find myself to be somewhat, I don't want to say less compassionate, but I really have almost no time for the bullshit. And I don't mean that to say that I'm dismissive of anyone around me and their thoughts and their processes, emotions, and feelings. I just think that as part of the self improvement process, thank you. She sent me back blessings. It's, and I say she because poetess is in her name. And that's just, again, the sensitivity. In any event, the literalness of my mood, I know when I'm in these moods, I know how these days go. And no matter what my mood is, I know how the days go. But it's good sometimes to understand where you're at emotionally. And when I'm in this sort of really, really hard mood, it's like whatever's getting done today is getting done. There's no complaining from myself. I don't want to hear the voice in my head that's doubtful. I don't want to hear the voice in my head that's less confident. I don't want to hear the voice in my head that is creating self-conflict. So if I know I've made my decision, I chose my path, I'm walking this way, I don't want to hear all the reasons why I might not work today. Not in the mood for that. What's in front of me, I'm moving it. There's days like that. And I leverage these days to try to maximize my output because I know that I'm going to make this very literal. I'm not going to submit sort of, if you would, to the emotions of that end of the duality and the spectrum. It's like, yo, we getting busy. We're going to go hard today and that's it. And the reason why I believe I'm in this mode is because I got to thinking like, what happens when it gets hard, when it really gets hard in life? Because life is going to get hard. It's going to get hard for you and I and all of us. And you want to talk about a very big insecurity and fear of mine. What pushed me towards this journey of consciousness and self-love, self-actualization, the domination of self, the realization that I have the essence of the creator in me, and it is my job and duty to maximize and fulfill whatever destiny is in front of me is the fear that when it got really, really hard, that I wouldn't be able to provide. And so, as a standard man, I guess if you would, I talk about how I was raised Hispanic male in the 80s. There was a very machismo sort of vibe that the man protects and provides. It's not just monetary. And yes, there's a physicality to it. Like, I need to be prepared. God forbid. I hope the world doesn't get into that crazy sort of space. We're well away from where we were hundreds of years ago. We're much more civilized, and the reality to being physically able to protect, although the world is crazy, there's some crazy people, but it's somewhat minimized, it's somewhat mitigated. But either way, I want to be a symbol of strength for myself, which is then a reflection of who I am for my family. And I talked about my sphere the other day. And so I'm very real about my responsibility when it comes to being that person, being that symbol, being that figure. And so I need to ensure that when it gets hard, that I don't fold, I don't buckle. One of the things you'll learn if you decide to go on the self-improvement journey and you start to get into human behavior, consciousness, and how it works, there's 2 times you find out about a person, man. There's 2 times that you find out what a person is really about. And the first one that we often overlook is comfort. When a person gets real comfortable, they start talking sideways, or they start like the subconscious, how it works. For example, I was watching something the other day. I'll use this for context. I think it was an FBI agent or an interrogator. He said he watches how many times the person blinks. And depending on how many times the person blinks, it's a dead giveaway as to whether they're trying to deceive you, or whether they're nervous, or whether they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Something along those lines. And essentially what that is you don't realize these things until you started to put in a little bit of work and do a little research. And like I said, I'm my own test dummy. I go through this. I'm not telling you what's going to happen to you. I don't know what's going to happen to you. It's your life. Yes, thank you. Red Rose is empathizing with me about trying to be real with my thought process and how I'm feeling. I can never lie about my fit. That's the one thing. Like, I'm going to get back to that in a minute. Part of this journey is removing all prejudices of who you think you are. Imagine that. What if you looked at yourself one day and was like, yo, everything you know about yourself is false. You want to use the word fake, whatever. It's not real. Everything you think you know is not real. And a lot of the philosophy, regardless of who you read and how you say it, they'll point you, and people who have these epiphanies and do great things to change the world, one of the first things they start to do is they stop believing that everything they think they know is real. And you're like, but then who am I? That's the point. Or what is real? That's the point. And can I tell you what's real? No, I can tell you what's real for me. And I can also tell you that logically, if you stop believing everything you think you know today, you'll start to find something different. It's like the path. It's not to say that you should choose a different path. It's that when you walk the path, you're walking it as who you were. Yes, exactly. Red Rose agrees. So in an effort to become who you could be, you have to lose all you were. Otherwise, imagine going on the journey to become something else and being the same. I digress. Going back to these thought processes and concepts, right? You find out about people when they're very comfortable, and human behavior will give you clues. Like if you run up behind, let's say you see somebody. I talk about the blinking, and you could catch people. And I find this important because if I get the sense that I don't have a lot of friends, I have a very small circle, but if I'm gonna share my time with you and converse with you and give energy and time is my resource. Time is my that's my equity. I don't know how much I have of it. So if I'm gonna deposit and invest time into you, and I find that you don't value my time, fuck you. You don't have to pretend. You could just be like, yo, Jeff, you don't really vibe with me. I'd rather not talk to you. Cool. That helps me. I'd rather know for sure that you don't want to rock with me like that than for you to pretend like you want to rock with me and then we wasting each other's time. Are you crazy? I ain't got time for that. You don't have time. And out of respect for you, you don't have time for that. Yes, your mind becomes wide open to then be able to see things through another lens of understanding. Red Rose is on it. Is on it. So now, some of the things when people are comfortable. If you run up behind somebody and you're like, oh, look at so and so, and you're about to go say hello, try to look real quickly at what their facial expression is when they first see you, because that's their subconscious speaking to you as what they really think about you. And they might crack a smile after. It's fast, it's quick. You gotta go into it like, let me run up on this person and let me just focus in on as soon as they see me, what expression comes out. Now you might argue that if you startle the person, you get a reaction of the person being startled. But there's logic and principles around how the subconscious works and how the emotions, which are tied to your subconscious and your thoughts, work. And you could get what that person feels about you when they would be comfortable with you. So there's that. You find out about people when they're comfortable. And that's a lot of times when, relationships, you figure out what you're getting. Somebody gets and that's the thing too, is ironically, for a relationship to work, I want you to be comfortable. I try to ease somebody into comfort as soon as possible. Why? Because I want to see what you're about. I do this a lot in business because, I talk about information technology. The thing with working in information technology, I'm gonna get into the other way of how you find out who somebody's really about, is this: there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure because the business line, with the line of businesses we work for, provide a level of service that is, I don't want to get into too much detail. I don't want to give too much away right now. But one of the things about working in information technology is this: it has to always work. It doesn't always 100% work because technology is that way. Like at home, it might happen rarely, but this is really what I get paid for. Your internet goes out. You know how you feel? No Wi-Fi. You know that uncomfortable feeling? Imagine being responsible for that. Yeah. So Red Rose is saying if she calls someone a friend, they mean something. And she only allows a handful of people into her inner circle. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So she's saying she takes on everyone's energy so strongly. My wife is like that. So what I said I'm like, yo, you got to be careful because it's almost like everybody's raining on you. And it's like people in this way, they absorb, like think about that. You got to really think about the other person in the relationship too and what they're experiencing. That's why I'm a talker. I'm a talker. One of the things, if you're a listener mostly, if you're constantly like, how are you doing? And the person's like, blah, vomiting all over you or raining on you. And it's like an hour into the conversation and the person hasn't asked you yet how you're feeling, or they vomit over you for an hour and then they give you like 2 minutes to tell you how you're feeling. You're investing a lot. And then you hang up the phone and you're like, oh, why do I feel so drained? And why do I talked about that the other day with the relationship with that dude I was in, right? Those are energy vampires. Those are energy vampires. And the only way for someone, like relationships, like in IT, you think about the basics of power. It's male, female. You plug into something. So if somebody's constantly plugging into you for energy, and then they're like zapping you, and you walk away, and you're like, oh, I have no more energy. You gotta, at some point, you gotta plug back in. So that's my thing is, who can you plug into? Who do you allow to plug into you? And you gotta have that reciprocity and that balance occurring all the time. Because like your phone, if you just use your phone to surf all day, eventually your phone's gonna die. There's no battery. You gotta be recharged up. And so part of what I was saying with, information technology and the pressure, if it doesn't work, like your internet doesn't work, I get paid. So I get paid at my role and at my level to, we talk about, it's not when things break, it's how you recover. It's how you recover. Because how you recover goes into the second thing of when you really find out about somebody and who they are, and the significance of making sure you practice how you feel and how you work on yourself. We'll get to that in a moment. But one of the things I want to get people into the rhythm of comfort is I want to see what you about. I want to see what you about. I want to see what you about when nobody, because I give, if you work for me, because people do report to me, I give you, and I'm like that in my relationships. I give you full autonomy. Go do what you want to do. You know what the roles and the rules and the expectations are. You know what I expect from you. There's no one who's in a relationship with me where I'm like, yo, this is why they don't know. This is what I expect from you. As a friend, this is what I expect from you. As a colleague, this is what I expect from you. As a community member, this is what I expect from you. And so in the same way, I need to know what you expect from me. Relationships don't work bi-directionally unless I know what you expect and you know what I expect. And we just kind of just in it and we're kind of just going through it and seeing what happens. A lot of times, you find yourself compromised because the person, without telling you directly what they're expecting, you get into this indirect kind of, well, this is what I kind of expect. When I call you, pick up that phone and let me dump on you for an hour. Nah, I reject phone calls all the time. And some people have to know, if you going through something, I might not be the person you want to call. I might not pick up for you because you're not in my sphere, right? My wife, my daughter, my son, I don't care where I'm at. The phone rings, I pick up all the time. Anybody outside of that, if it's not business, you might not want to call me. And so, all right, boundaries. We're getting into a lot of things here, and I want to get back into the second way you found. Yes, Red Rose. Yo, we had that part of what she's talking about for 25 is like, yo, how do I cut down my contact list? How do I cut down the people who have access to me? Don't just give that's another thing that I don't think we should feel uncomfortable with. Don't give everybody access to you. Why should everybody if everyone has access to you, then you become less mysterious, you become too accessible, and then it's kind of like, what are you offering? If everybody could get you, how valuable are you? Right? There got to be some balance of like, yo, hold on. It's not that the people are you better than me? That's you that thought that. I'm just saying that I have certain modes and operations, morals and values and principles, and you either align with it or you don't. If you don't, you're just on a different team. Like imagine that. Like we have all these Western culture traditions, sports. Everybody's playing the same sport who's in the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, but they play on different teams, and every team has a different culture, but they're still trying to win. It's just that your culture's different than mine. That's all right. Doesn't mean yours is better, mine's worse. It's just the reality of life and how it works. Those are my priorities, dog. I don't, once my priorities are established, I don't negotiate my priorities. Now, it's not to say I don't come back to the table and ensure that these priorities aren't working. It's just that part of doing you, right? This is why the do you rules is important. Once you fall in love with yourself, I'm not saying you're not, I'm saying I was out of love with myself. You know how I knew I was out of love with myself? Because I wasn't taking care of my body. I wasn't making myself wiser. I wasn't learning some new information. I wasn't learning some new skills. I didn't have a high focus on God. I didn't have an intentionality around how I was going to be protector and provider outside of I make money. That's, I make money. I pay the bills. I have a house I never thought I could ever afford. Both my wife and I have a car. We have we have everything we need. And we have, we got the sprinkles and the cherry and all that on top. I'm not the richest, but I'm in a very good group. I'm in a very nice class of people. I say that with humbleness and graciousness because, again, I came from a lot of nothing. And yes, I yearned for this. There was a time in my life when I was like, man, I really want this sort of life. And now that I have it, that's part of the love and appreciation, like gratitude. Gratitude to, I'm very grateful. Like I'm grateful for I'm grateful for the air I'm able to breathe and the air that's around me, the environment I'm in. I'm so glad that my children don't have to grow up how I grew up. In any event, I'm going to digress and get back to where I was at. But gratitude is important. It's part of what I thought I wanted to get into today. But you gotta. All right. Protector, provider. I wasn't taking care of myself. Once I fell back in love with myself and I made myself my number one priority, how do I become valuable in life? In the roles that I play in my life. And the first biggest role outside of who I am to God and God's image is that I have also become a creator because I'm the creator of my life. And what have I created? I've created a marriage with children, which is family, which is everything. And I had family growing up, but we weren't really this tight, right? Like my father bounced. I didn't really have an experience with him. My mother had to work all the time, so I was very much alone. I say this just to say that I decided to make it a little bit different. All right, I digress again. I'm super hyped. It's 4:35. Yes, Rev Rose just said it's a daily growth process. It is. It is. And the evolution is harder than you think. I'm going to get into some quotes that I have pulled up behind my screen from Leo Toltsoy. Blew my mind last night as I was doing some research. But now, when you become this super dope version of yourself, it's because I want my wife to look at me like, yo, I'm proud of my husband. I guess that's the word. My daughter and my son can rely on me. What you need physically. What you need physically. I got you. You need me to you need to jump on my back and you carry up a couple of flight of stairs. I got you. You need me to be there for you emotionally because you're going through some things. You're 14, 15, all these transitions are crazy, right? You need me to be a reflection. Like I'm a reflection of what my daughter's probably going to look for if she looks for a man in her life. I'm a reflection of what my son is going to be like when he portrays an image. All these things are super important. So I do me for the priorities in my life, because if I am not a priority for me, I can't be a priority for the people in my life. And so therefore I'm doing them a disservice because I'm giving them less than what I could possibly give them. Boom. That's important. You find out about people when they're comfortable. The second area that you find out about people is, and in my mind, I got all these emotions and thoughts flowing. I talked about, being hard. And that's the thing too. You could be hard, like, yo, no bullshit, no nonsense, and still be joyous and gracious and grateful and smile, right? You could be like happiness and love. That is, I was rereading a book. One of the things I did is I talked about this yesterday briefly. One of the reasons I stopped using headphones is because my auditory senses, I love music like everybody else. Music gives you a dopamine rush. You get addicted. And sometimes you could say to yourself, I'm not going to work out if I don't have music. I talked about, I hate feeling like I need something. I hate feeling like I'm addicted. If I don't have these headphones, I can't work out. So I killed the headphones. I never have headphones on. And I reference that to say this, not just that I stay away from the dopamine rush of the music, because what you realize too, I could tell you that I'm pretty much meditating all day. You want to know how I know that that's true? Because when you get into deep work and self work, and when you're focused the way that you can learn to focus, it's a meditative state. When I sit down and pray, naturally you envision meditating. I'm in my corner. I'm sitting down on my cushion. I'm doing my thing. But when I'm running, I'm meditating. When I'm lifting, I'm meditating. When I'm cooking and cleaning the dishes, throwing out the garbage, I'm meditating. The headphones distract me from meditating because it distracts me from myself. When I'm distracted from myself, I'm distracted from what I'm thinking. When I'm distracted from what I'm thinking, I'm distracted from creating. When I'm distracted from creating, I'm distracted from bettering my life. Period. Yes, Red Rose is giving me love. So there's that. Cool. The second time you find out about people is pressure. Pressure bust pipes, right? I'm gonna step to the side. I gotta blow my nose. You don't want to hear that. As I step to the side to blow all the disgustingness out of my nose, I watched the live of the day where the same thing happened, and you can hear it. Sorry, I know it's not the greatest hearing or sound in the world, but it is what it is. Pressure. Pressure will reveal to you who you are. And aside from the autonomic nervous system, your heart beats. Alan Watts said this. If you had to wake up every day and turn on your brain and turn on your heart and make all your organs function and have the blood flow through the entirety of your body the way it needs to in order for you to live and survive. By the time you did all that, it'd be time to go back to sleep. So you have a lot of automatic, and it's the autonomic nervous system or the autonomic processes, right? I hope I'm saying that right. That is in you. And when pressure is applied, fight or flight kicks in, right? Your nervousness, and I know there's an elementary and rudimentary sort of understanding around this because we all feel it. But when you're in fight or flight, your senses and how your body prepares itself for protection is very real, right? It's very real. And so when you realize that pressure puts you into that mode, you think that when you're under pressure, you're going to fight through the pressure. You're going to push through the pressure. You're going to be prepared for the pressure, because who thinks that they're going to fold under the pressure? But the reality to how we live today is that we're very often, most often, we live pressure free. We live pressure free. Yep. Life is a straight meditation. I'm in prayer and conversation with, when you think about, the book I was going into, the headphone experience. I didn't close that loop before I get back into pressure, and you think you're ready for pressure. Conversations with God. I listened to that book. And if you want to read that book, I would encourage you to listen to it. And the reason why you want to listen to it is because they were very conscious of the audible experience, and that God has a voice in the book, and God has a voice as a man, and God has a voice as a woman, and you'll understand as you go into that rhythm and pattern why it's super dope. That book, when I listen to, I'm on my third time listening to it. I've actually now started to use it when I'm looking for a sort of a feeling of love and a feeling of, man, I just want to hear something that's going to, I guess you could call it dopamine, right? That's going to give me a rush of positivity into my life. I listen to that book. Yo, have you read that book? Red Rose has, don't read it. Listen to it. Oh, yo. All right. Listen to that book. Ooh, that book. I'll tell you why that book was profound for me. I was trying to rationalize what I was learning about how I wanted to express God in me, and that book helped me. It's like it came to me because the universe does this, right? And God put it in my lap because it was supposed to. Yo, she's read it like 10 times. There's a lot of books I read where I'm like, yo, I'm going to reread this book. And I don't. I lie to myself. I reference it sometimes. Like I'll go back and sometimes I can even touch the book and kind of close my eyes and re-engage with the experience. And some of the main points will come back to me for the book. But this is a book that is always so dope. Oh, it hit my soul. Like right now I'm thinking about it and it's, ooh. Yo, and I'll tell you this, I got goosebumps right now. There's a point in the book where there's this chapter. I got goosebumps. You can't see them, but I can feel them. There's this chapter, because I remember sitting down. I was sitting down when this happened. And the author says, I love you, God. And God says, I love you too. And just, do you go through that enough in your life? This is what self-improvement is about. Are you, and this is what I want to, like, this is the part of the do you rules that I do think is for everybody. Do you not love yourself? And do you not believe that as imperfect as we might be as people, that there's this harmony and beauty and amazingness to how we're built? Like the experience of life is dope. You can't think that somebody who is of great perfection and power gave you that. And that being in essence that gave you this possibility is in you. And it's not even a question of is that person on your side, but how doesn't that being love you? And that it's trying to show you to love yourself. Yes, it makes your heart smile. Yes. That is the biggest thing I learned, that I've always loved myself. I've never not loved myself. I didn't know why necessarily. I love being alive. I love, man, I hate that. And now that I love myself so much, I struggle with death like everybody else. But I'm learning to look forward. There's a practice. I'm learning to look forward to that experience because I believe in certain things that happen after. And if you read that book, Conversations with God, and other books along the lines, there's a book called The White Book with Ramtha. Yo, that's another deep book. That is another. That's my thing about God. Like, I read the Bible. The Bible, man. I mentioned it before. I stopped reading the Bible at night. I used to read the Bible at night every night, and they used to give me nightmares because I never liked the idea of God being so judgy. Like, really, like God's gonna give me free will and then judge me for my free will. I don't like that concept. I never liked it. I never liked it. And it's not to say you want to believe in the commandments. All right, cool. You're not gonna tell me how to live my life. And I believe that God it wants me to live my life how I want to live my life. No, it doesn't mean go hurt people. Let's not be ignorant. I think that God inherently, this you start reading too about the neurology and the science of how you work. You know when something doesn't make sense. You know how you know? You feel it. When you're like, oh, let me not do this, it's bad. Oh, let me not do this, it's wrong. Oh, let me not do this, I might hurt somebody. Your body tells you, you feel it. God already told you, don't do things like this. It's your will. It's your will to choose to not do it or choose to do it. And God doesn't object, because then you wouldn't have the essence or the free will that was provided to you to live how you want to live. And all this drives back to the do you rules. When you start having these, I don't want to call them epiphanies, when you start to believe nothing that you think is real because it's all fake, or it's not all real. It doesn't have to be fake. It's just not real. You can re-educate yourself on what is real for your life. And then what you value as real and not, it changes. And why wouldn't you want to go through that experience? Because then at minimum, you say, yo, let me take care of myself. Let me take care of myself. Because if I don't take care of myself, I said this the other day when the mic was off, and I said this to my boss because he's going through an experience physically. He had to have surgery. And the Shaolin master, I think it's Shen Li, forgive me if I mispronounce his name. He says the mind races through all these problems, and we create all these problems, and we create all these problems. Let the body become a problem. And the minute the body becomes a problem, we realize there's only one problem. And why is it now a problem? Because without the body, you can't live. And so when I urge you to go within yourself, one of the first things you do with self-love is like, yo, I was 230 pounds. I was way out of shape. I could barely walk up the stairs without breathing heavy. I'm not looking to be, I'm going to get into the day, like standards. I just want to be healthy. I just don't want to kill myself with drinking and overeating. It's not to say that I don't indulge. It's hard. Like, life is hard. Like McDonald's and ice cream and soda. Now, even though I haven't had a soda in over the last 3-4 years, that's one of the things I don't crave. I don't like sweets for drinks. I don't like candy. I'm a chocolate fanatic. One of the reasons I drink a lot of protein shakes. And the reason why I drink a lot of protein shakes is because the chocolate. I have a nasty craving for chocolate. But in any event, you can't live without your body. And if you start to witness what you're doing to your body, you question yourself. Why am I doing this? You're doing it to yourself, dog. Hey, I'm not saying you're not influenced. I'm not saying it's not hard. I'm not saying you snap a finger. But at some point, what's real and what's not? What's real and what's not? There's some realness into, if you're not where you want to be with your weight, you should question yourself. Do you really want to be there? If you're not where you're at with your skill set, if you're not where you're at with your money, do you want to be there? And if the answer is no, then you got to do something about it. Don't ask me what you got to do. It's pretty obvious what you got to fucking do. Just go do it. So that's the biggest thing about the do you rules. You learn to love yourself, and you say to yourself, since I love myself so much, let me not put myself through unnecessary pain. Let me be as pleasurable with my life as I can. And so that's priority, and then I become somebody who is beneficial, and I become, yeah, you got to reevaluate. Yeah, you know that's what Red Rose is saying right now, and so we're pushing on time for 50. Let me get back to my other point. Set a timer for 5 a.m. Now I'm not going to run today, but I will do cardio, meaning I'm going to jump rope. And so instead of going to run for 30 to 40 minutes, I might just jump rope for about 15 to 20 minutes. Because every day, I said this other day, very often do I go through a full 0 day. Physically, I always contribute to my body in some way, which means no, I don't lift weights every day or do anything physical every day. But I do cardio because I care a lot about my heart and I want my heart to be as healthy as possible. And I've built up the routine of doing this so much that if I don't do it, I feel very uncomfortable. And I start to feel lazy. And I start to get like the thoughts that, like, I start to talk to myself, you ain't shit, you weak, you see? You're gonna go right back. That's my, yo, you want to talk about the greatest fear I have right now? You talk about the greatest fears, I guess you could say, is losing what I have. But losing what I have is not just the job and the money and the lifestyle that I'm able to provide for myself. Thank God. I don't want to lose that. But I feel this way, right? Let me go fix myself again. Excuse me. All right. I have a professional skill set one of the things that helped me is I'll leave a company quick. Not because it sounds cool and trendy, but I know my market value. And so business wise, I know what the market's gonna pay me. And because of the type of, I've made 20 plus years of an investment in my career. And so, no, I don't want to get fired and lose my job. Yes, I like the bonuses and the 401k matches and all the things, the benefits that it provides. Great. But I can get that back because I've proven to myself already, my market is my market. It, Depending on the situation, could I have to take less sometimes? That's life. But I negotiate that when I get there. My point is, losing what I got is this mindset. Oh my God. My mindset, my thoughts, my emotions, this connection, this harmonious unity that I have. I already know myself. I could quit something like that. And it works like when I quit alcohol, when I decided, yo, I'm not drinking no more, boom, I just stopped drinking. So I get very scared that if I have a 0 day and I don't contribute, that's me telling myself to quit. That's me sneaking in, yo, you're going to quit, you're going to quit, you're going to quit, you're going to quit, you're going to quit. And I get really scared because what does that mean when I quit? In my opinion, when I quit, I'm somebody who is no longer providing and protecting at the highest level. And I can't do that. So cardio gives me a sense of accomplishment that I did something for my heart, which means I did something for my body, which means I did something for my mind, which means I did something for my spirit, which means I did something for my priorities, which means I did something for my family because I kept myself healthy. All right, cool. That's what it is. I don't know if I just closed the point or that's where I was at, but I know I do have to get back to pressure. Fight or flight kicks in. And who you really are comes out when you're under pressure. And pressure busts pipes, right? I didn't know this, but I was reading a book about habits. I forgot what, there's Atomic Habits and I think The Power of Habit. Two dope books. They're both very easy reads and very logical. Very logical. But think of it like this, right? It's very hard to practice pressure. But certainly if you don't apply pressure to yourself every day, the way you think you're going to respond to pressure is likely how you're not going to respond to pressure. And so when pressure presents itself, you break. You break. And why that's difficult is, I'm going to read a quote, I think, from Toltsoy soon that I think will align with this. If you find yourself complaining, yearning, frustrated, feeling like maybe life is against you, then life has put you under pressure, and your response to pressure has been to fold. It's not me talking. Look at the evidence. Look at the evidence. If you believe that there's so much more for you, my timer just went off. Why did that happen? 5 minutes. Nope. If you believe there's something more for you and you haven't gotten it, naturally I would ask you why. And you're going to tell me why. Oh, this happens to me, that happened. Yeah. Okay. It's pressure. Are you going to stay there? You going to stay there, or you're going to fight through it? This is why the days of feeling hard are important. Are you going to fight through the pressure, man? Are you going to fight through the pressure? Are you going to thrive under pressure? Or are you going to revert to who you've always been, which is weak? This is me talking to me right now. Don't take offense. I knew I was weak. I knew I could handle professional pressure because I had proven it, but also that means I had practiced it. But there's pressure in your relationships. For me, it's with my spouse. Try being in a relationship for 25 years and being an asshole the way I was an asshole for as long as I was an asshole. And be married 17 of those 25. We see what it is. Like, divorce rates are 50%. I was in there. Listen, man. I digress. If we think about that the world is having difficulties, it's because people are having difficulties. Who's raising those people? There's pressure being a parent. There's pressure being a parent. And you might think you're operating under the highest possible workflows and superstructures to keep everything copacetic, clean, and growing. But then why is the world the way it is? Why is your family legacy the way it is? Because you're accepting of what it is. And pressure, when under pressure, the real you comes out. The real you comes out. And it's not to say that it's an indictment or you're wrong. It's just that that's what it is. That becomes the truth. What is the truth? What is the truth? Only you know the truth. I know the truth. And I know that when put under pressure, under certain circumstances, I would break down and fold and walk away. I would break down and fold and walk away. Because it's hard to be in front of your spouse and know that you've done something wrong and she's telling you all about it. And there's really nothing you could do but what you should do, but not should. The proper form of dealing with that pressure is to accept it, not leave the house and walk away, or not say, go fuck yourself, or not decide to say, well, you were wrong here. I'm not saying I don't do these things. I'm saying I have to work really hard on not to do those things. Why? Because pressure makes me want to be weak. Pressure makes me want to quit because I have quit things in my life. I persist here in this journey for social media and influence because I've always thought about lavish dreams and being something greater than just a standard sort of 9-to-5 routine human. And I've been pretty good at certain things. And then when the pressure got high, I quit. And so I know that person in me exists. And I am terrified of that dude. I'm terrified of that dude. And every now and again, 9 days in, it's like, you gonna click record? You gonna quit? Because it is so easy to go right back to where you were. The pressure of continuing and persisting. There's pressure to continue and persist when you don't see an obvious reward. And so for me, I work really hard on consistency and having an understanding of who I am when I'm comfortable and who I am under pressure. And I try really hard not to deviate from who those people are. I share with you, I think it's hilarious. Sometimes I'll have breakdowns because you have breakdowns. And my daughter the other day, her and I were having some conflict. And I said some things I probably shouldn't have said. And she got very upset with me, which she should. She had every right to be upset. I was upset with her. One of the things she said to me was, I bet you if the camera was on and you were on your YouTube channel, you wouldn't talk like this. And the power of that statement, whether or not it was true, it probably was true because I click record and I present to you a version of me that I want you to see. That's natural and instinctive. But what I have to work on all the time is, like I came on hard today, I'm not perfect, dog. I'm nowhere near, I don't believe I'm the quintessential human in it by any stretch. That's why I also say don't follow what I do because it may not work. I might break you in the sense that you might be like, yo, what are you doing? You're crazy, you're out of your mind. None of this stuff is valuable. The only thing I drive you towards is the love for yourself. And sometimes in the love for yourself, you find yourself under pressure and you still say some things you don't really want to say. You can work on that. You can work on that because you don't have to say everything you're thinking. It takes practice. And so the pressure of having to raise children is like, I have to identify quickly, yo, I'm getting into conflict with my daughter. I'm getting into conflict with my son. I'm getting into conflict with my spouse. I'm getting into, because at my work, at my profession, I'm cool and collected under pressure. That's one of the things that's part of my reputation. When things go bad, they call Jeff. They call Jeff because I know how to communicate. I know how to recover. I know how to speak. I know how to align the resources. I know how to put people in position to succeed and do things that are going to get us back to at least zero. That's what I was talking about with IT and when your internet breaks. I know how to fix things quick, fast, and easy and communicate it in a way that keeps everybody very even keeled. That's why I get paid what I get paid. But that's not the only version of me, right? But it's important because in doing this, I've proved I can be successful under pressure. The difference, of course, with the other relationships in your life, like I said, I don't have full control over what the people I'm involved in life with are feeling. And I don't know what my people who are important to me have gone throughout their day. If you're getting into a conversation, into conflict with the people you love at 7:00 at night, they just went through an entire day of pressure. Like life is pressure. Life is continual pressure. And so in that way, I have to be mindful that because I feel conflicted and I might be angry and I might be uneasy, I'm trying so hard not to take it out on that person, but the pressure makes me turn into a demon. You get what I'm trying to say? And so in that way, it's not always going to be perfect. But as part of dealing with pressure, there's a realization that I might have to go back to my daughter and say, yo, you're right. I'm sorry. If the lights were on and somebody was observing how we were interacting, of course I wouldn't want to flip out. Like what do the kids call it? Crash out. Dad is crashing out. I know that because of my routine, 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, like there's some sacrifices. If I'm waking up at 3:30 and yesterday I was in bed at 9:30, that's 6 hours. What do you think that does to you? The pressure of lack of sleep will fuck you up. And then you start becoming this animal that you don't really want to be. It's not that you are that person, but you have to work on controlling it, right? Self-control, self-discipline. That's why I believe in practicing stillness. But there's a reality to, if I was always executing the way I wanted to, then I would stop having things to work on. And we're always going to have things to work on, but I don't want to ever imply or provide the perception that like I'm this stoic, calm, always cool and collected dude. Most of the time I am. But like everything else, you do one thing wrong and it can have a massive impact on the relationship. So I try really hard to work on that. That I don't ruin the other 9 things with the one thing because I know how the mind works. I don't know what the other people, I'm locked in. Like I know what I tell my daughter all the time. She likes to mess with me. I'll look at her and say, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. And I'll look at her with great conviction. I know what you're thinking. And she'll say, tell me what I'm thinking then. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna keep that here. But just know I know what you're thinking. But the reality of what I tell and I do it with my wife and with my son, the reality with knowing what they're thinking is I really know what they're feeling because I can feel their energy. I'm locked in. Part of if I can lock in on myself and I know what my priorities are, I can use it to lock in on the people around me. Like Rev Rose was saying about you want to, you're taking on energy. I need to know where the energy is at because how they move affects how I move, and how I move affects how they move, and how they move. And I want to have a positive impact on them. Why not? Because why? Life is filled with pressure. And just because I'm under pressure and they can't see my pressure and they can't really, I don't want their help with my pressure. That's the thing too I've learned is my role and responsibility as provider and protector. Sometimes I don't necessarily tell them what I'm going through because I don't want to burden them with my pain. I want to be a reciprocal, let them dump on me. I can take all their pain. That I know for sure. That's also a reason why I shrink my circle. I need to have the bandwidth that when my wife's having a bad day, I got you, dump it. When my daughter's having a bad day, I got you, dump it. When my son's having a bad day, I got you, dump it. When they're thinking crazy things, I got you, dump it. And then, yes, 1 foot forward, and so it goes, all about feeling the energy. 1 day, 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 second at a time. That's what Red Rose is saying. And so in that way, sometimes like an IT system, I overload and it's like pouring water into a socket. I spaz out a little bit. As the kids would say, I crash. I'm not proud of those times. I hate that happens. I want to say that I want it to never happen, but that's part of the reason why I think I try to empathize with people so much and I try not to be judgy. When we see somebody do something sometimes, it's like, oh, look what that person did. But a lot of times you're watching what that person did. You don't have the full context. You don't have the full context of why that person and how that person arrived at that decision. You don't know the pressure that is on that person and the audacity of anybody to say, oh, what you're going through is not that much pressure. What I'm going through is more pressure. It doesn't matter what's pressure to you or what's pressure to me. Pressure feels the same way. And whether that person, in the context of what they're going through, might be heavier or not, it's still heavy. It's pressure. You don't know what people are going through that forces these things out. And a lot of the times the reality too comes down to we don't practice pressure enough. And so it's 5:07. I'm going to wrap this up soon. Let me make sure that there was nothing I wanted to share. Let me do this. Let me show you where I'm at with my hours. So to date, I put in 50 hours of self-improvement. A lot has gone into content creation. You look at it and, it's 26 of the 50 hours have gone into content creation. You can see the overall targets of doing me. I'm trying to get to over 1,000 hours, 1,250 hours, which means I got to do at least 100 hours a month of self-improvement work. I have already done 50 this month. If this is day 9, I'm already on an hour of content creation. You can look at it like this already. I've already put in 20 minutes of prayer and meditation. This is dope to start your day. Like I've already had 80 minutes of success, I believe, in my life. And all of a sudden I'm at 51 hours. I could be at 100 hours by the 18th. I could wind up putting in 300 hours just this month. Now, the reality to some of that is, and why I start to feel hard. Like yesterday, I was flowing through yesterday. Like when I leave the mic and I go upstairs, I feel like I wish I could take a mic with me and just record what I'm thinking. Because when I click stop streaming and I get through my workout and I start to cook breakfast and everything for my kids and wake them up, I'm thinking, I'm flowing. It's great. And that's part of what I think are the benefits of doing things like this is you start your day with a win, you start your day successful, and you start to train your subconscious. I'm just like, ooh, I feel like the things that I'm thinking in my head are so much better than what I've recorded. You know what I mean? Because I do watch my recordings. I watch my recordings to critique myself. My hand gestures, my facial expressions. I work on that because I want to give you a good show. I want to give you something that's worth clicking on and just show you the possibility of me and let it work. So you think of it like this. I put in 27 hours of content creation, right? And I said that as part of that, I want to have 52 episodes of the Do You Rules and 24 live streams, right? Forget about Instagram Reels and Shorts. Let's ignore these two things. Let's just say this. That I've already put in 26 hours. And let me show you this. Because sometimes you're looking at results and you're like, yo, I've gotten red rose, but I've also lost like a few subscribers. Whatever, it happens. Now, if you think of it like this, I talked about the amount of episodes I want to have. So for this year, I'm already on stream number 9. My target is 24. So I should supersede that. But this year I've published 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, this is scheduled. This is scheduled to come out today. This is scheduled to come out. So as far as this is concerned, I've recorded another episode for the dirty truth about a morning routine and then the truth about hitting rock bottom. So I've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 episodes this year and 9 live streams. And if you go back to what I'm looking at, 52 episodes for the year is essentially 1 episode a week. There's 52 weeks in the year. So there's certain results we're not seeing. Like, I'm not rich and famous. I don't have 1 million subscribers. I may not. It may not happen. That's cool. But what are you doing? Red Rose has enjoyed it and she's ready for her day. Awesome. You want to start to see some results, and a lot of it is not going to be maybe what you're expecting. I talked about that. I don't know how I transitioned into this conversation, but the benefits of winning, prioritizing, handling the pressure. I didn't get into the Toltsoy quotes. I might leave that for tomorrow. All these things are supremely powerful and beneficial to how we manage ourselves. And you want to feel good about how you're managing yourself. That's the biggest thing about the Do You Rules, as I talk about managing yourself, loving yourself, doing you, and keeping yourself on task with what you said you would do. So that's what I got for you on day 9. It's been an absolute pleasure and a blessing to be here again. However you're feeling, whatever mood you're in, take full advantage of it. Be cognizant and conscious. Think about who you are when you're comfortable and who you are when you're under pressure. Change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Do you and stay rich.